Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USV Titan, watching the stars drift past the massive view screen. The ship was huge, bigger than any building back on Earth. It carried 3,000 crew members and enough weapons to level a small moon. Jake had been captain for 5 years now, and he still felt amazed when he looked at what humans had built. The year was 2387. Earth had joined the Galactic Federation 30 years ago, after first contact with alien species. Most aliens thought humans were peaceful traders. They saw Earth ships carrying medical supplies and food to distant worlds. They watched human diplomats work out trade deals and peace treaties. What they did not see was the real strength hiding behind Earth's friendly face. Jake walked over to the communications station where Lisa Chang was monitoring deep space signals. Lisa was young but smart, one of the best communications officers in the fleet. She had short black hair and quick fingers that danced over her control panel like a pianist. "Anything interesting today, Lisa?" Jake asked. "Just the usual chatter, Captain. Trade routes, weather reports, diplomatic messages." Lisa paused and frowned at her screen. "Wait, I'm getting something strange." The bridge went quiet. Jake moved closer to Lisa's station. On her screen, numbers and symbols scrolled past in patterns that made no sense. "What is it?" Jake asked. "Emergency frequency, sir." "Very faint. The signal is coming from the Kepler system, about 72 light-years from here." Lisa's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "I'm trying to clean it up." The bridge crew gathered around as Lisa worked. Slowly, the random noise became words. The voice that came through the speakers was not human. It sounded like someone speaking underwater with strange clicks and whistles. "This is Zephyrian colony ship, under attack. Need help. They are killing everyone. Please, anyone. Help us." The message repeated 3 times, then went silent. Jake felt his stomach tighten. He knew about the Zephyrians. They were a peaceful water-breathing species that lived in the Kepler system. They made the best medical equipment in the galaxy and never fought with anyone. If someone was attacking them, it meant bad news for everyone. "Get me Admiral Sullivan," Jake ordered. The view screen changed to show Admiral Kate Sullivan sitting in her command chair aboard the USV Leviathan. Kate was in her 50s with gray hair and steel-blue eyes that had seen too many battles. She commanded the 5th Fleet, Earth's most powerful military force. "What do you have for me, Jake?" Kate asked. "We picked up a distress call from the Kepler system, Admiral. The Zephyrians are under attack." Kate's face went hard. "Send me everything you have." Lisa transmitted the signal to the Admiral's ship. Kate listened to the message 3 times, her expression getting darker each time. "Any idea who's attacking them?" Kate asked. "No, ma'am. The signal was too weak to get details." Kate was quiet for a moment, thinking. Jake knew what she was considering. The Galactic Federation had rules about military action. Any fleet movement required approval from the Federation Council. That process could take weeks. "How long would it take us to reach the Kepler system?" Kate asked. 3 days at maximum speed," Jake replied. "And how long for Federation approval?" "At least 2 weeks, probably more." Kate nodded slowly. "The Zephyrians will be dead by then." The communication channel stayed open, but neither captain spoke. They both knew what this meant. If they wanted to help, they would have to act without permission. That could mean the end of their careers, or worse. "Admiral," Jake said carefully, "the 5th Fleet is the strongest force Earth has ever built. 12 heavy cruisers, 36 destroyers, over 200 support ships. If anyone can help the Zephyrians, it's us." Kate smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator who had made up her mind. "You're right, Jake. Send word to all ships in the fleet. We're going to the Kepler system. Maximum speed. What about Federation approval?" "I'll handle the Federation. You just get us there fast." Within an hour, the entire 5th Fleet was moving. Jake stood on his bridge and watched the other ships on his tactical display. Each dot represented hundreds of crew members and enough firepower to destroy a planet. Earth had built this fleet in secret, telling the galaxy it was for defense only. Most aliens believed that lie. The truth was different. Humans came from a world where everything tried to kill everything else. For millions of years, humans had fought wars, survived disasters, and learned to be the deadliest species on their planet. When they reached the stars, they brought that knowledge with them. The USV Titan's engines pushed the ship faster than most alien vessels could even dream of moving. Around them, the rest of the 5th Fleet kept pace. These were not the slow, careful ships that most species built. These were weapons designed by a species that understood war better than any other race in the galaxy. As they traveled through space, Jake thought about the Zephyrians. He had met some of them during his time as a junior officer. They were kind, gentle people who spent their time healing others and making art. The idea of someone attacking them made Jake angry in a way that surprised him. Lisa Chang interrupted his thoughts. "Captain, I'm picking up more signals from the Kepler system. Put them through." This time the voice was clearer but more desperate. "This is Zephyrian Defense Command. 3 colonies destroyed. Enemy fleet approaching Aquaticus Prime. We cannot stop them. Please. If anyone receives this message, help us." The message cut off suddenly. Jake looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They all looked angry. Humans did not like bullies, and they especially did not like bullies who picked on peaceful people. "How much longer until we reach Kepler?" Jake asked his navigation officer. 47 hours, Captain. Push the engines harder. I want to be there in 40. Sir, that might damage the systems." Jake turned to face his crew. "The Zephyrians saved my daughter's life 5 years ago. Their medical technology cured a disease that would have killed her. We're going to save them, even if we have to push these ships until they break apart." The crew nodded and went back to work with new determination. Behind them, the rest of Earth's deadliest fleet followed, racing through the darkness toward a battle that would change the galaxy forever. The USV Titan moved through space faster than it was designed to go. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Danny Walsh watched his displays with worried eyes. The power readings were in the red zone, but the engines kept running. Human engineering was built to handle more stress than most alien technology could survive. On the bridge, Jake Morrison studied intelligence reports with Commander Alex Carter, the fleet's top intelligence officer. Alex was a thin man with sharp eyes who noticed details that others missed. He had spent the last day gathering every piece of information he could find about the attackers. "What do we know about who's hitting the Zephyrians?" Jake asked. Alex pulled up a holographic display showing the Kepler system. Red dots marked where Zephyrian colonies had been destroyed. "The attack pattern suggests a highly organized military force. They're not raiders or pirates. This is a full invasion. Any idea who they are? I found some references in our deep space monitoring stations. The attackers call themselves the Vorthan Empire. They appeared on the Galactic Rim about 6 months ago. No one knows where they came from." Jake studied the tactical display. The Vorthans had hit the outer colonies first, then moved toward the center of the system. It was a classic military strategy, designed to cut off escape routes and create panic. "What do we know about their technology?" "Not much. The few ships that escaped their attacks report energy weapons and heavy armor. They seem to prefer overwhelming force over clever tactics." Jake nodded. That was useful information. Humans had learned long ago that brute force could be beaten by smart thinking and better planning. Down in the medical bay, Dr. Monica Price worked with her team to prepare for treating Zephyrian wounded. Monica was a xenobiologist and expert in alien lifeforms. She had studied Zephyrian biology for years and knew exactly what they needed to survive. "Remember, Zephyrians breathe a methane-oxygen mix," Monica told her medical staff. "They also need high-pressure environments. If we bring any aboard, we'll need to set up special treatment areas." Her assistant, Dr. Kevin Brown, nodded. "What about their injuries? Will human medical equipment work on them?" "Some of it. Their blood is copper-based instead of iron-based, so it's blue instead of red. But their organs work similarly to ours in many ways." Monica had treated Zephyrians before during her time at the Galactic Medical Center. They were peaceful people who spent most of their time creating beautiful art and developing new healing techniques. The thought of them being attacked made her sick. In the Marine quarters, Gunnery Sergeant Carlos Rodriguez drilled his troops for combat in zero gravity. Carlos was a veteran of the Mars colonial wars and had seen more fighting than most people could imagine. His Marines respected him because he had kept them alive through battles that should have killed them all. "Listen up," Carlos shouted at his Marines. "We don't know what we're flying into, but we know innocent people are dying. When we get there, we're going to save as many as we can and kill anyone who tries to stop us." Private Amy Johnson raised her hand. "Sergeant, what if the enemy has better weapons than us?" Carlos grinned. It was not a nice grin. "Private, humans have been killing things since before we could make fire. We're really good at it. These Vorthans are about to learn why Earth never lost a war once we decided we wanted to win." The Marines laughed. They had trained for situations like this their entire careers. Fighting in space was dangerous, but they were ready for it. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Bell worked in the ship's computer center, running battle simulations against unknown enemy forces. Ryan was young for his rank, but he understood computer systems better than anyone else in the fleet. His job was to make sure all the ship's weapons and defenses worked perfectly when they were needed. Computer. Run Simulation 47, Ryan said. The holographic display showed the Titan fighting against various enemy ship designs. The computer tried different tactics and weapons to see what worked best. After running hundreds of simulations, patterns started to emerge. Interesting, Ryan muttered. Computer, show me the most effective attack patterns. The display changed to show hit-and-run tactics, flanking attacks, and coordinated strikes from multiple directions. It was classic human military doctrine, developed over thousands of years of warfare on Earth. Meanwhile, Admiral Kate Sullivan held a video conference with all the fleet commanders. The screen showed 12 faces, each commanding one of Earth's most powerful warships. These were veterans who had fought pirates, rebels, and hostile alien species throughout human space. I want status reports from all ships, Kate said. Captain Gary Stone of the USV Thunder spoke first. All weapon systems ready, Admiral. My crew is eager to show these Vorthons what happens when they pick on peaceful people. Captain Beth Taylor of the USV Eagle nodded. Same here. We've been running combat drills for the past day. My people are ready for anything. One by one, the other captains reported ready status. Kate felt proud of her officers. They were risking their careers and possibly their lives to help people they had never met. That was what made humans special in the galaxy. Good, Kate said. Remember, our primary mission is to save Zephyrian lives. Fighting the enemy comes second. We're not going there to start a war. We're going there to stop one. Captain Morrison spoke up. Admiral, what if the Vorthons don't want to negotiate? Kate's expression went cold. Then we'll teach them why picking fights with humans is a bad idea. As the fleet continued toward the Kepler system, more distress signals arrived. Each one was weaker than the last, and many cut off suddenly. The Vorthons were systematically destroying everything in their path. Jake stood on his bridge and watched the stars. Somewhere ahead of them, innocent people were dying while their attackers celebrated easy victories. The Vorthons thought they were conquering a defenseless species. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Earth's deadliest fleet was coming, and when humans decided to fight, they did not lose. Lisa Chang looked up from her station. Captain, we're receiving a new transmission. It's very faint. Put it through. The voice that came from the speakers was barely a whisper. This is Aquaticus Prime. Defense Command. Enemy fleet. 300 ships. We cannot. Please help us. Jake's hands clenched into fists. 300 ships against whatever the Zephyrians had left. It was going to be a massacre. How much longer? Jake asked. 18 hours, Captain. Jake hoped they would not be too late. The Fifth Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. What they saw made even the most experienced officers sick to their stomachs. Debris fields floated where Zephyrian colonies used to be. Pieces of destroyed ships, broken space stations, and the remains of what had once been beautiful underwater cities drifted in the darkness. The Vorthons had not just conquered the outer colonies. They had completely destroyed them. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Titan, staring at the destruction on his main screen. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen anything so complete and pointless. The Vorthons had not just won. They had made sure nothing would ever grow here again. My God, whispered Lisa Chang. There's nothing left. Admiral Sullivan's voice came over the communication system. All ships maintain formation. We need intelligence before we act. From the bridge of the USV Phantom, Captain Linda Hayes prepared for the most dangerous mission of her career. The Phantom was Earth's newest stealth ship, designed to get close to enemy forces without being detected. If anyone could scout the Vorthon fleet and live to tell about it, it was Linda and her crew. Linda was known throughout the fleet as someone who took risks that other captains would not even consider. She had been a test pilot before becoming a ship commander, and she still flew like someone who thought dying in battle was better than dying in bed. Take us in slow and quiet, Linda told her pilot, Lieutenant Sam Torres. I want to see what we're dealing with before they know we're here. The Phantom moved deeper into the system, its stealth technology hiding it from enemy sensors. As they got closer to Aquaticus Prime, The horror of what the Vorthans were doing became clear. The planet was surrounded by a massive enemy fleet. Linda counted over 300 ships, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything she had seen before. The Vorthon vessels looked like someone had designed them specifically to cause fear. They were black and angular, covered with weapon ports and armor plating. But what made Linda angry was not the size of the enemy fleet. It was what they were doing to the survivors. On her screen, she watched Zephyrian medical ships trying to evacuate wounded civilians from the planet's surface. These were hospital ships clearly marked with medical symbols and carrying no weapons. They should have been protected under galactic law. The Vorthons were hunting them for sport. Linda watched as Vorthon attack ships chased down a Zephyrian medical transport. The alien vessel was slow and clumsy, designed for healing, not running. It had no chance of escape. "Those bastards," muttered her weapons officer, Lieutenant Tony Martinez. "They're targeting medical ships." Linda felt something cold and angry growing in her chest. She had seen combat before, but this was different. This was not war. This was extermination. The Vorthon ship surrounded the medical transport and opened fire. The Zephyrian ship exploded in a ball of flame, taking hundreds of wounded civilians with it. The Vorthon ships actually seemed to celebrate, moving in formation patterns that looked like victory dances. "That's it," Linda said quietly. "All stop." "Battle stations, Captain?" Sam asked. "We're supposed to observe and report back. Change of plans. Target the nearest Vorthon ship. Full spread of torpedoes." Her crew looked at her with surprise, but they followed orders. The Phantom's torpedo tubes loaded with humanity's latest weapons. These were not the simple explosive devices that most galactic species used. They were smart weapons designed by people who had been building better ways to kill things for thousands of years. "Firing," Tony announced. 6 torpedoes shot out from the Phantom, moving faster than most alien ships could track. They hit the nearest Vorthon vessel before its crew knew they were under attack. The enemy ship exploded so completely that there was almost nothing left. The other Vorthon ships in the area immediately started looking for the attacker, but the Phantom's stealth technology kept it hidden. Linda watched their confused search patterns and smiled. "Target the next ship," she ordered. "Captain, we should retreat and report back," Sam said. "After we kill a few more of these murdering scum." The Phantom destroyed 3 more Vorthon ships before the enemy figured out roughly where the attacks were coming from. As energy beams started lighting up the space around them, Linda finally ordered a retreat. "Get us out of here. Send everything we recorded back to Admiral Sullivan." The Phantom raced away from the enemy fleet, dodging weapons fire that came dangerously close. Linda's crew worked frantically to escape before the Vorthons could organize a proper pursuit. As they reached the edge of the system, Linda transmitted her intelligence report back to the 5th Fleet. Along with tactical data about enemy ship designs and weapons, she included the recordings of Vorthon attacks on medical transports. Admiral Sullivan watched the recordings in her command center aboard the Leviathan. Her senior officers stood around her, their faces getting darker as they saw what the enemy was doing to innocent people. "They're not just conquering," said Colonel Nick Davis, the fleet's Marine commander. "They're exterminating. This is genocide." Kate Sullivan had fought in more battles than she could count. She had seen the worst that intelligent species could do to each other, but watching the deliberate murder of wounded civilians made her feel something she had not felt in years. Pure rage. "Signal all ships," Kate said in a voice that could have frozen space itself. "We are going to engage the enemy immediately. No warnings, no negotiations, no mercy." "Admiral," said her tactical officer, Commander Steve Parker, "they outnumber us almost 3-1. Kate smiled. And it was the most frightening expression any of her officers had ever seen on a human face. "Commander, these aliens have never fought humans before. They think overwhelming numbers make them strong. They're about to learn why that's not always true." She opened a fleet-wide communication channel. Every ship in the 5th Fleet could hear her voice. "This is Admiral Sullivan. We came here to rescue the Zephyrians. What we found is something worse than war. The enemy is deliberately targeting civilians and medical personnel. They are committing genocide against a peaceful species." Kate paused, letting her words sink in. "I want every officer and crew member to understand what we're about to do. We are going to show these Vorthons why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. We are going to teach them that picking on peaceful people is the last mistake they will ever make." Throughout the fleet, Human crews prepared for battle with a cold determination that would have terrified anyone who could see it. They were no longer just military personnel following orders. They were predators who had found someone hurting the innocent. And predators did not show mercy. Admiral Sullivan deployed her fleet in a formation that no alien species had ever seen before. Instead of the traditional battle lines that most galactic militaries used, the human ships spread out in a complex pattern that looked almost random. To the Vorthans watching on their sensors, it appeared that the humans did not know how to fight properly. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Titan, watching his tactical display as the fleet moved into position. Around him, his crew worked with the calm efficiency of people who had trained for this moment their entire lives. "All weapons ready," "Captain," reported his weapons officer, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Walsh. "Targeting systems locked on enemy formations." Jake nodded. "Remember, we hit hard and fast. Make every shot count." The first phase of the attack began with 12 human destroyers making a coordinated strike on Vorthon supply ships. The enemy had positioned their logistics vessels behind their main battle line, thinking they were safe from attack. Captain Gary Stone commanded the lead destroyer group from the USV Thunder. His ships moved in perfect formation, using their superior speed to get past the Vorthon heavy cruisers before the enemy could react. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta," Gary ordered. The human destroyers opened fire simultaneously, their weapons targeting the enemy supply ships with deadly precision. In less than 30 seconds, 20 Vorthon logistics vessels were destroyed or crippled. The Vorthon fleet commander had never seen anything like it. His ships were designed for straight-ahead fighting, not the complex three-dimensional warfare that humans had perfected. While he tried to reorganize his forces to respond to the destroyer attack, Admiral Sullivan launched the second phase of her plan. Captain Beth Taylor led a group of cruisers in a flanking attack on the enemy's left wing. The USV Eagle and 5 sister ships appeared from behind a small moon, catching an entire Vorthon squadron by surprise. "Target their command ships first," Beth ordered her weapons officer. "Cut off their communications." The human cruisers fired volleys of guided missiles that twisted and turned through space like living things. The Vorthon point defense systems could not track weapons that moved so unpredictably. Enemy ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light as the human missiles found their targets. Meanwhile, Colonel Nick Davis prepared his Marines for the most dangerous part of the mission. They had to reach the surface of Aquaticus Prime to rescue trapped Zephyrian civilians. Nick was a veteran of ground combat on a dozen different worlds. He had learned that the key to successful planetary assault was speed and surprise. Get in fast, complete the mission, and get out before the enemy could organize a proper response. "Remember, we're not here to fight a ground war," Nick told his Marines as they prepared to board their assault shuttles. "We're here to save lives. Every minute we spend fighting is a minute that civilians might be dying." The Marine assault shuttles were designed to penetrate enemy defenses and deliver troops to a planet's surface even under heavy fire. They were fast, heavily armored, and equipped with the best stealth technology Earth could build. As the space battle raged above, Nick's shuttles dove toward Aquaticus Prime. The planet's surface was mostly covered by vast oceans where the Zephyrians lived in beautiful underwater cities. Many of those cities were now damaged or destroyed, but intelligence reports suggested that thousands of civilians were still alive in emergency shelters. The first shuttle to reach the surface was piloted by Captain Maria Santos, one of the fleet's most skilled pilots. She brought her craft down in the middle of a Zephyrian city that was half flooded and burning. Nick and his Marines quickly disembarked, their armor sealed against the methane-oxygen atmosphere. The scene around them was devastating. Buildings that had once been architectural marvels were now broken ruins. Bodies of Zephyrian civilians floated in the contaminated water. "Spread out and look for survivors," Nick ordered. "Check every building, every shelter." As his Marines began their search, Nick received reports from the space battle above. The human fleet was winning, but it was not easy. The Vorthons had more ships, and they were fighting with the desperation of people who knew they were losing. Back in space, Admiral Sullivan watched the battle unfold on her tactical display. The Vorthon fleet was starting to break apart under the coordinated human assault, but their commander was making one last desperate move. "Admiral," reported her sensor officer, Lieutenant Janet Cole, "the enemy is pulling back their remaining ships and forming up around the planet. It looks like they're preparing to bombard the surface. Kate felt her blood go cold. If the Vorthons could not win the battle, they were going to make sure the Zephyrians died anyway. All ships. Emergency maneuvers. We have to stop them from reaching bombardment range. The human fleet abandoned their careful tactical formations and raced toward the planet at maximum speed. It was exactly what the Vorthon commander had hoped for. By forcing the humans to group together, he could use his remaining heavy weapons to maximum effect. Captain Morrison found himself leading the charge toward the enemy battle line. The Titan's massive guns opened fire at long range, trying to disable Vorthon ships before they could fire on the planet. All power to forward shields, Jake ordered. We're going right through them. The space around the Titan filled with energy beams and missile explosions as the Vorthons concentrated their fire on the approaching human ships. Jake watched his shield strength dropping rapidly, but they were almost in range. Return fire! Everything we have. The Titan's weapons blazed to life, sending streams of deadly energy into the enemy formation. Other human ships did the same, turning the space around Aquaticus Prime into a deadly light show. Captain Laura Kim commanded the USV Thunder as it closed with a massive Vorthon battleship. The enemy vessel was twice the size of her cruiser and armed with enough weapons to destroy a small fleet. Take us right at them, Laura ordered her pilot. Maximum acceleration. Her crew thought she had lost her mind, but they followed orders. The Thunder raced directly toward the enemy battleship, dodging weapons fire that lit up space around them. At the last moment, Laura ordered a hard turn that brought her ship alongside the Vorthon vessel. At point-blank range, the Thunder fired every weapon it had into the enemy ship's hull. The Vorthon battleship exploded so violently that the shockwave damaged several nearby ships. But Laura's desperate attack had worked. The enemy bombardment was stopped before it could begin. Down on the planet's surface, Nick Davis and his Marines had found thousands of Zephyrian survivors hiding in underwater emergency shelters. The aliens were terrified and barely alive, but they were breathing. We need immediate evacuation, Nick reported to the fleet. These people won't survive much longer without proper medical attention. As the space battle reached its climax, human medical ships moved in to begin the massive rescue operation. It was going to be a race against time to save as many lives as possible. The Vorthon fleet was broken, but they were not finished fighting. In a final act of spite, they launched every remaining missile they had at the planet's surface. Admiral Sullivan watched the incoming weapons and made a decision that would be remembered forever. All ships, intercept those missiles. Use your point defense systems and your own hulls if necessary. Do not let a single one reach the surface. Every human ship in the fleet moved to block the enemy missiles. They used their weapons, their shields, and in some cases their own ships to stop the bombardment. Several human vessels were damaged or destroyed, but not one Vorthon missile reached Aquaticus Prime. As the last enemy ship fled or exploded, Admiral Sullivan opened a communication channel to all surviving Zephyrians. This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Earth Defense Force. You are safe now. We're here to help. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. Admiral Sullivan stood on the bridge of the Leviathan, watching as human ships worked frantically to rescue Zephyrian survivors from the ruins of their worlds. The scene around Aquaticus Prime was both heartbreaking and hopeful. Thousands of Zephyrian civilians floated in the water near their destroyed cities, kept alive only by emergency breathing equipment. Human rescue teams worked around the clock to bring them aboard medical ships, where Dr. Monica Price and her staff had set up special treatment areas. Monica had not slept in over 30 hours, but she refused to rest while there were still lives to save. The human medical bay had been converted into an aquatic environment where Zephyrians could breathe and recover from their injuries. "How are they doing, Doctor?" asked Captain Morrison as he visited the medical bay. Monica looked up from a young Zephyrian she was treating. The alien child had been injured when his family's shelter collapsed, but he would live. "They're tough people, Captain. Physically, most of them will recover. Emotionally, that's going to take much longer." Jake nodded. He had seen the recordings of what the Vorthons had done. Entire families had been killed for no reason other than cruelty. Cities that had taken centuries to build had been destroyed in hours. What do they need most right now? Safety, security, a place where they can rebuild their lives without fear. Down on the planet's surface, Colonel Nick Davis and his Marines continued searching for survivors. They had found refugee camps hidden in underwater caves, emergency shelters that had protected thousands of Zephyrians from the bombardment. Nick was helping to evacuate one such shelter when he met Elder Flowing Current, one of the surviving Zephyrian leaders. The alien was old and wounded, but his mind was still sharp. "Why did your people come to help us?" Flowing Current asked through a translation device. "We have nothing to offer you in return." Nick stopped what he was doing and looked at the Zephyrian elder. "We came because you asked for help. That's what decent people do. But the risk to your fleet, to your people, surely your leaders had to consider the cost," Nick smiled. "Elder, you clearly don't understand humans very well. When someone is hurting innocent people, we don't calculate costs. We just fight." The rescue operation continued for 3 days, human ships working in shifts to evacuate every surviving Zephyrian from the system. Admiral Sullivan had made it clear that no one would be left behind. Captain Linda Hayes commanded the search and rescue efforts from the USV Phantom. Her ship's stealth technology made it perfect for finding hidden survivors that other vessels might miss. "Captain," reported her sensor officer, "I'm detecting life signs in the ruins of the third moon. Very faint, but definitely there." Linda immediately ordered a course change. On the shattered remains of what had once been a Zephyrian research station, they found a group of scientists who had been trapped for days. "This is Captain Hayes of the Earth Defense Force," Linda broadcast on emergency frequencies. "If anyone can hear this, we're here to help." A weak signal came back. "We hear you. There are 12 of us alive in the lower levels. Our life support is failing." Linda's rescue team worked for 8 hours to cut through the twisted metal and reach the trapped scientists. When they finally broke through, they found Zephyrians who had given up hope of ever being rescued. One of the scientists, a researcher named Deep Thought, grabbed Linda's armored hand with her tentacles. "You came for us," Deep Thought whispered. "Even though we are not your people, you came for us." "Of course we did," Linda replied. "That's what friends do." Meanwhile, Admiral Sullivan was dealing with the political aftermath of the rescue. The Galactic Federation Council was not happy that Earth had acted without authorization, but they were having trouble criticizing a successful humanitarian mission. Federation President Cloudwalker, a member of the peaceful Zarian species, contacted Sullivan directly. "Admiral, while the Federation appreciates Earth's assistance to the Zephyrians, your actions were taken without proper authorization. This sets a dangerous precedent." Kate looked at the Federation president with barely concealed disgust. "Mr. President, while the Federation was having committee meetings, the Zephyrians were being exterminated. Should we have let them all die while waiting for paperwork? The proper procedures exist for good reasons, Admiral. The proper procedures would have taken weeks. The Zephyrians had hours." The conversation continued for some time, but Kate knew she had won the argument. The Federation could not punish Earth for saving lives, especially when their own bureaucracy had failed to act. More importantly, news of the rescue had spread throughout the galaxy. Other species were learning that when peaceful people were threatened, Earth would respond with overwhelming force. Captain Morrison received reports from human intelligence services throughout known space. Aggressive species that had been planning expansion campaigns were suddenly reconsidering their plans. The galaxy had learned that humans were not the peaceful traitors they pretended to be. They were the most dangerous military force in known space, and they used that power to protect the innocent. 3 weeks after the battle, Admiral Sullivan attended a ceremony on New Zephyr, a planet that the Galactic Federation had designated as the New Zephyrian homeworld. Thousands of refugees had already begun building underwater cities, trying to recreate the beauty they had lost. Elder Flowing Current presented Sullivan with the Zephyrian Medal of Flowing Honor, the highest award their species could give. "Admiral Sullivan," the elder said, "your people have shown us that there is still hope in the galaxy. When darkness threatened to consume us, Earth's light shone through." Kate accepted the medal, but she was thinking about the future. The Vorthans had been driven back to the galactic rim, but they would return eventually. Other aggressive species would test Earth's resolve. "Elder," Kate said, "this medal belongs to every human who answered your call for help. We didn't come here as conquerors or saviors. We came as friends." As the ceremony ended, Kate received a priority message from Earth Command. The message was simple but important. Earth was formally establishing a new military doctrine called the Guardian Protocol. Any peaceful species that requested Earth's protection would receive it. backed by the full power of humanity's military forces. The galaxy's bullies would have to think twice before attacking the innocent. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the Titan as the Fifth Fleet prepared to return to Earth. Around them, construction ships were already working to rebuild the Zephyrian colonies. It would take years, but the beautiful underwater cities would rise again. "Captain," reported Lisa Chang, "we're receiving a message from Earth Command. It's marked Priority Alpha." Jake read the message and smiled. Another distress call had been received, this time from the Altair system. A peaceful farming species was under attack by raiders. "Set course for Altair," Jake ordered. "Maximum speed." As the human fleet jumped into hyperspace, Jake thought about what they had accomplished. The galaxy had learned that Earth's deadliest fleet would answer any SOS call, no matter the cost or the risk. Peaceful species throughout known space could sleep safely, knowing that if the darkness came for them, humanity would bring the light. And somewhere in the galactic rim, aggressive species were learning to fear the sound of human engines in the night.